Have you ever wondered why some people seem to age gracefully, while others, almost overnight, begin to fade? Why some 65-year-olds hike mountains, volunteer, and dance at weddings, and others struggle to get out of bed? The truth is hard to face. Most people do not age because of their years. They age because of their habits. And by the time the damage shows up, it's often too late. What's even more shocking is that many of these dangerous habits feel so small, so harmless, that they go completely unnoticed. Until one day something breaks. A blood vessel, a relationship, a memory, a will to keep going. But there's good news too, because these habits leave clues. And the body, when given the chance, has an extraordinary power to repair. That's why today, we're exposing 5 subtle yet destructive patterns that quietly erode your health after the age of 65. These are not opinions. These are patterns observed by geriatric researchers, longevity scientists, and doctors who specialize in aging. And if you're willing to pay attention to these signs, you'll discover something even more powerful.
What to do instead? Because every one of these destructive patterns has an opposite. A choice. A small shift that might not just extend your life, but make it worth living. So stay with me until the end. By the time we're done, you'll not
only recognize the traps, but you'll know how to avoid them. Your future self will thank you. Let's start with something many people overlook. The quiet signals your body sends when something is wrong. A dull ache in the lower back, a flutter in the chest at night, a moment of confusion while looking for your keys, then brushing it off as just being tired. These whispers of discomfort are often dismissed with a familiar phrase, "It's just age." But what if that mindset is exactly what accelerates aging? There's a dangerous belief that after 65 it's normal to feel worse every year. That losing energy, clarity, or balance is simply the cost of growing old. But that belief is not only false, it's deadly. Because the truth is, most major health issues begin with minor signals. And those signals are not punishments of time. They are invitations, warnings, clues. Walter Briggs knows those signals well, though he never calls them that. He's been waking up more tired than usual, but tells himself it's just the Arizona heat. His right hand has started to tremble slightly when he drinks his coffee, but he hides it under the table. Last week, he forgot the name of his niece's husband during a phone call and hung up early, embarrassed. He didn't mention it to anyone. Why would he? It's just age, but it's not just age. According to the National Institute on Aging, many early signs of conditions like Parkinson's, heart disease, or mild cognitive impairment are often mistaken for normal aging. This delay in response, sometimes years, can drastically reduce the effectiveness of treatment and accelerate decline. Now, look at Eleanor Carter. Last spring, she noticed something odd. A tingling in her right foot after her morning walks. It wasn't painful, just different. Instead of ignoring it, she brought it up at her next checkup. Her doctor ordered a blood test. The results showed early-stage neuropathy, likely related to mild prediabetes, a condition that hadn't yet been diagnosed. Because she caught it early, she made small but meaningful changes, reducing sugar, adding more fiber, and switching her evening walks to morning yoga, which helped improve circulation. 6 months later, the symptoms had nearly vanished. Her doctor called it a reversal in progress. The difference wasn't luck. It was attention. Neglect is easy. It feels passive, harmless, like silence. But the body keeps score, and small delays in action become long-term consequences. The aging body speaks softly. It doesn't scream. And that's exactly why we must listen carefully. If you've been brushing off little things, now is the moment to stop and ask, what is my body trying to tell me? Now moving to the second factor that silently affects longevity. The quiet erosion caused by isolation, often mistaken for independence. There's a myth we tell ourselves as we age. I don't want to bother anyone, or I'm fine, on my own. Independence is celebrated, and rightly so. But sometimes, what looks like strength is actually loneliness in disguise. Humans are social by design, not just emotionally, but biologically. Social interaction helps regulate cortisol, the stress hormone. It strengthens the immune system, sharpens cognition, and even reduces the risk of chronic diseases. Yet millions of older adults live in what researchers now call silent isolation, a condition as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, according to a landmark study by Brigham Young University. Walter never saw it coming. When he retired, he thought he'd enjoy the quiet. No more deadlines, no more noisy office chatter. At first, the solitude felt like peace. But slowly, the phone calls stopped. The invitations stopped. And eventually, he stopped reaching out. Now his days pass in silence. No real conversations, no shared meals. Just reruns on television and the occasional comment to the cashier at the grocery store. He tells himself he's just a private person, that he's earned the right to be left alone. But his body disagrees. His memory is fading faster. His sleep is shallow. And his motivation, once strong, has all but vanished. Compare that to Eleanor. She lives alone too. But her life is filled with connection. On Mondays, she volunteers at the community library. Wednesdays are her hiking group. Sundays, she attends a local discussion circle, sometimes in person, sometimes via video call. She makes a point of talking to 3 people a day, not out of obligation, but because she understands something Walter does not. Being seen keeps the spirit alive. Connection doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be constant, but it must be present. Even small interactions, like chatting with a neighbor or calling a grandchild, light up the brain in ways that no medication can replicate. Independence is not the absence of others. It's the freedom to choose how to connect, when, and with whom. If you've been confusing solitude with strength, it's time to ask, who am I letting into my world? Another habit that often gets ignored is what we eat when no one is watching. After 65, appetite can change, cravings shift, energy drops, and the effort of preparing a full meal, especially for one, can feel like too much. That's when convenience begins to quietly replace nutrition. Microwaved meals, packaged snacks, toast and coffee for breakfast, canned soup for dinner. Easy, fast, predictable. But here's the problem. Predictability is not nourishment. Walter has fallen into this exact trap. His pantry is full of shelf-stable foods, most of them high in sodium, preservatives, and sugar. Breakfast is almost always white bread with margarine. Lunch, something from a can. Dinner, whatever requires the least effort. He tells himself it's good enough, but it's not. His body is inflamed. His skin has lost color. His joints ache more than they should. And worst of all, his brain feels foggy, like a window with condensation that never clears. Science is clear. After 65, nutritional needs become more specific, not less. The body absorbs certain vitamins less efficiently. Muscles begin to lose mass faster. The brain requires steady fuel, not spikes and crashes. A landmark study from Tufts University found that seniors with diets low in essential nutrients, especially omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and antioxidants, had significantly higher rates of cognitive decline and frailty. Now, let's look at Eleanor. She doesn't follow a perfect diet, but she makes it a ritual. Her meals are simple: oatmeal with walnuts and berries in the morning, a big salad with beans and olive oil for lunch, roasted vegetables, a little salmon and tea in the evening. Once a week she bakes, not because she needs to, but because it brings her joy. She grows herbs in her window. She drinks water with lemon. And even when she eats alone, she sets the table with care. Food is not just fuel, it's communication between your cells and your future. And every bite is a message. When the body receives poor signals, processed fats, refined sugars, excessive salt, it responds with confusion, inflammation, fatigue, disconnection. But when it receives clean, varied, intentional nourishment, something different happens. Healing begins. Eleanor doesn't eat like someone giving up. She eats like someone staying ready. If you've fallen into the trap of repetition over nutrition, it's time to ask, what is my plate saying about the life I want to live? Here's the fourth behavior that slowly undermines your health: giving up on personal goals, curiosity, and the thrill of learning. It doesn't happen all at once. In fact, it's often invisible until one day a person stops making plans, stops asking questions, stops dreaming. This is when aging truly begins, not in the body, but in the spirit. The human brain was built to evolve, to adapt, to stretch. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections, continues well into our 80s and beyond. But it only works when we use it. When we stop engaging the mind, it doesn't stay neutral. It begins to shrink, literally. A study published in the Journal of Gerontology found that seniors who maintained strong engagement with learning activities, whether through classes, hobbies, or structured challenges, retained significantly more cognitive function over time than those who didn't. Walter used to build things: wooden clocks, birdhouses, furniture for his nieces. But somewhere along the way, he put his tools in the garage and never took them out again. He watches documentaries now sometimes, but not to learn, just to pass the time. He doesn't ask questions anymore, doesn't write things down, doesn't look anything up. He's not unhappy, but he's not curious either. And without curiosity, the world becomes smaller. Now take Eleanor. Last year she decided to learn to play the piano. Not to perform, not to impress, just to feel the sensation of mastering something new. She practices 30 minutes a day, slowly, patiently. And some days, she sounds like thunder in a wind chime shop. But she laughs, and she keeps going. She also joined a monthly book club, not to socialize but to be challenged, to read what she normally wouldn't, to debate, to think out loud. Her eyes sparkle when she talks about these things, not because they make her feel young, but because they remind her she's still growing. We do not retire from purpose. We retire from jobs. Purpose must be fed through curiosity, creativity, and contribution. The moment we stop imagining a future, the brain begins to prepare for an ending. If you've lost touch with projects, plans, or passions, now is the moment to ask, what have I stopped believing I could begin? As we move forward, there's a fifth pattern that deserves attention. The slow decline that begins when movement is replaced with rest. And that rest is mistaken for reward. There's a deeply ingrained belief that after a certain age, the body has earned the right to slow down, to sit longer, sleep more, do less. But here's what decades of research make painfully clear. The moment daily movement becomes optional, health begins to unravel. Muscle loss accelerates. Balance weakens. Blood flow slows. The heart becomes less efficient. Bones become fragile. And before long, even the simplest tasks, climbing stairs, getting dressed, walking to the mailbox, start to feel like mountains. Walter tells himself he's just taking it easy. After all, he worked hard his whole life. Isn't retirement supposed to be restful? So now he spends most of his days in a recliner, with a blanket over his knees and the remote by his side. He says walking hurts his back, that the sun's too hot, that maybe tomorrow he'll stretch a little. But tomorrow never comes, and his body knows it. His legs feel stiff. His circulation is poor. He gets dizzy when standing too quickly, and lately, his balance has been off. Twice this month, he nearly fell. But falling isn't the danger. The danger is that the body, without movement, starts to forget how to move. Compare that to Eleanor. She doesn't run marathons. She doesn't go to the gym. But she moves, intentionally, every day. She walks after breakfast, does simple stretches before bed, takes the stairs whenever she can. Sometimes she even dances in her living room to old records. Her routine isn't about exercise. It's about honoring the machine that carries her through life. Because the body doesn't need extreme workouts. It needs consistency, mobility, engagement. A study from Harvard Medical School found that seniors who incorporated even light daily movement, walking, gardening, tai chi, reduced their risk of premature death by over 30%. Eleanor treats movement not as a chore, but as a privilege. Walter sees stillness as a reward. But for the body, stillness is decay. If you've been telling yourself rest is what you deserve, ask this instead. What does my body need to keep showing up for me? Let's pause for a moment. Look back at the patterns we uncovered. Not mistakes, not flaws, but quiet habits, deeply human ones, that over time steal years, energy, and clarity. And yet every one of them holds a door, a chance, a way back. Because aging does not mean surrender. It means choosing carefully, living intentionally, listening more closely to the body, the mind, the spirit. Walter didn't fall overnight. His decline came in small decisions, each one wrapped in comfort, routine, and resignation. But Eleanor, she chose something different. Not perfection, not control, just presence, attention, curiosity, effort. She treats each day as a conversation with her future self. And that future is watching, waiting, taking notes on everything you do today. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to remember who you are when you're fully alive. If you've seen yourself in Walter, don't feel shame. Feel clarity. That's the beginning of change. If you've seen a glimpse of Eleanor in yourself, keep going. You are not done. You are not even close. The path to vitality is not hidden. It's in the food you choose, the conversations you have, the way you move, the questions you ask, the small discomforts you no longer ignore. It's in the refusal to give up, not on life, but on living fully. So take that walk, make that call, cook that meal with care, ask the question you've been holding in. And above all, keep moving toward life, not away from it. The choice is yours. Comment below, what part spoke to you most? Like this video if it helped you see something differently. Subscribe for more real conversations about aging well. And turn on the notification bell so you never miss what could change everything.